How's this for a dramatic subject for a sports story, Steve? A veteran relegated to obscurity gets another chance to prove himself, engineers a series of exciting victories, then gets injured just when he's reached the peak of success.
Harry, that idea would make a great movie. Now, if we could get Robert Redford to play the role of the veteran...
Wait a minute, this isn't fiction. It's the story of Patriots quarterback Steve Grogan. Last year he got off to a horrendous start, was quickly replaced by Tony Eason, and when this season began, he was on the bench. But in week 6, Grogan got his old job back and helped bring his team into the very thick of the title chase.
Grogan is the NFL's answer to Chuck Yeager. Throughout his career, he's known the elation of flying high and the frustration of crash landings. But 3 weeks ago, his comeback story came to an abrupt end when he suffered a knee injury against the Jets.
Yeah, Hollywood may or may not be interested in Grogan's story, but Steve Grogan's attempt to reestablish himself as an NFL starter qualifies as one of the most heartwarming and ultimately heartbreaking stories of 1985.
The first 2 weeks of 1984 began a nightmare for Steve Grogan. This nightmare transformed the firm ground of his pass pocket into quicksand. Finally, the nightmare transformed Grogan from starter to bench warmer. And with the loss of his job came a loss of confidence and enthusiasm.
When I finally went to the bench for good, I struggled mentally. I got up in the morning not wanting to go to work. There wasn't anything exciting there to draw me to work anymore. And I'd found myself driving into work getting a knot in my stomach because I really didn't want to be there. And there's times when you say, well, maybe I can't play anymore. But I tried anyway to kick those thoughts out of my mind, and my family and friends kept telling me that they knew I could play, and whether it would be with the Patriots or somebody else, that I still had the ability to play. And I tried to keep believing in myself, and I think I did a pretty good job of that.
The 6th game of the 1985 season marked the shaky start of Steve Grogan's comeback.
I hate to admit this, but my knees went immediately limp. It was probably the most nervous I'd been, and I didn't know how to act. I was trying to show confidence, but trying not to be too cool and trying not to look scared, and I wasn't really concentrating on what I needed to do when I got out there, and I fumbled the first snap. When I fumbled the snap, it threw the anger switch on in my body, and I realized it was the same game that I had left a year ago, and went back out and did what I had to do to help us win.
As a mid-game replacement for an injured Tony Eason, Grogan engineered a victory against Buffalo. Then he led New England to 5 wins in succession, including triumphs over the Jets and Dolphins. Grogan ignited this hot streak by coolly calling his own plays. Few of Grogan's passes traveled far, but even his wobbliest throws enabled the Patriots to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. Inspired by Grogan, a team often accused of giving up too easily was now giving everything they had. Grogan drew on the element of surprise to stun his opponents, and his poise and patience silenced the critics who had relegated him to oblivion.
I was told a little over a year ago that I wasn't good enough to be a starter anymore. I had doubts about it myself, whether I could still play at times. Most of the press and the people in the Boston area had me 1 foot in the grave and out of football, so I would have to say in most respects I have made a comeback.
While Steve Grogan had once been a forgotten man, he was now firmly in control of one of the most memorable comebacks in recent pro football history. A rejuvenated Grogan had proved that those who thought he was finished were wrong. But the perspective he gained while sitting on the bench prevented him from gloating over his success.
I think I'm doing a good job of not letting it go to my head because I know I can go back down, and sooner or later the time's going to come again when I'm going to have to go back to the bench or either be through playing football, and I know I can handle that now.
A sprained knee ensured that Grogan would finish the season where he began it, on the sideline. But for 6 weeks, Steve Grogan proved time can't diminish the spirit of a true competitor.
Hello again from Safeway Rental. You know, contractors, old man winter's just around the corner. Before heat chills your job out, be prepared for him with a heater from Safeway Rental. Sales or rental, Safeway Rental has the right size space heater to